What if I told you the next big Marvel movie isn't about a cosmic war or a time-traveling villain, but a group of mutants who've been waiting decades to finally get their moment? Let's talk about the X-Men movie that's quietly brewing in the shadows of the MCU, and why it might be the most important Marvel project in years. Personally, I think this isn't just about mutants, it's about legacy. Every time I see a new cast member announced, I can't help but think about how these characters have been shaped by decades of comics, films, and fan obsession. And let's be real, this isn't just a reboot. It's a reset. A chance to rebuild something that's been broken, fractured, and reimagined so many times it's hard to remember what the original even looked like. Here's the thing. The X-Men have always been about more than just superpowers. They're about identity, discrimination, and the struggle to belong in a world that fears what it doesn't understand. But in the MCU, where every hero has a glowing shield or a radioactive spider bite, how do you make mutants feel fresh? Well, the casting choices are already hinting at something bold. Samara Weaving as Emma Frost? That's not just a name drop, it's a statement. She's got the charisma to play a character who's equal parts seductress and warrior, and honestly, I'd watch her in a cape just for the way she'd probably smirk at the camera. And then there's Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. Wait, Jean Grey? The Phoenix Force? The girl who's had more tragic arcs than a Shakespearean tragedy? This feels like a calculated risk. But maybe that's the point. They're not trying to make her safe. They're trying to make her real. Because if you've ever read the comics, you know Jean Grey isn't just a pretty face with telekinesis. She's a storm waiting to happen. But let's talk about the people behind the scenes. Jake Schreier, the director? He's not exactly a household name, but he's got a track record of making grounded, character-driven stories. His work on Beef was raw, unflinching, and utterly human. And now he's being handed the keys to the X-Men universe? That's either a genius move or a recipe for disaster. But here's what I find fascinating. The writers are Lee Sung-jin and Joanna Calo. Both of them come from shows that aren't exactly action-packed. Beef is about two guys who hate each other, and The Bear is about a chef trying to survive in a restaurant kitchen. So what does that mean for the X-Men? It means we might get a movie that's less about explosions and more about the emotional weight of being different. Imagine a scene where Cyclops isn't just shouting Iceman at a villain, but staring at his hands, wondering if he'll ever stop seeing the world through red-tinted glasses. That's not a typical Marvel beat, but it's exactly what this franchise needs. And then there's the elephant in the room, Magneto and Professor X. Sir Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen aren't just actors, they're icons. Their versions of Xavier and Magneto have defined the characters for generations. But here's the thing, they're not just reprising their roles. They're coming back to a world where mutants are no longer the underdogs. With Victor Von Doom in the MCU, the stakes are higher than ever. What happens when a godlike villain starts targeting mutants? Does Xavier's dream of a better world finally get a chance to shine? Or does it crumble under the weight of his own ideals? This isn't just a movie. It's a philosophical debate wrapped in a superhero costume. And honestly, I can't wait to see how they handle it. But here's the deeper question. Why now? Why after all these years, after so many failed attempts, is Marvel finally ready to make an X-Men movie that feels like it matters? Maybe it's because the world is finally ready for a story about outsiders. Or maybe it's because the MCU has grown so large that it needs new voices to keep it from becoming a stale, repetitive cycle of alien invasions and time loops. Either way, this movie isn't just about mutants. It's about us. And if you ask me, that's the kind of story worth waiting for.